Welcome back to Local Bias on GCTV. I'm your host, Julia Ellingboe, and we did a quick change, and now I have Joshua A.C. Newman, who is another game designer. We've been talking about role-playing games, and we're going to start with the social benefits. That's what we were talking about with Meg, and let's talk a little bit about addressing premise, and what does that mean? Because you told me this quick little phrase, and now I want you to explain it in your own words.
Okay. A premise is a moral line that you want to explore. You want to see where the borders are of a moral question. And this is something that the players are going to care about. So when you design a system where you're exploring this moral premise, you're going to have a situation where the players can be in the players can all be working toward making this conflict an interesting conflict. The challenge is to write rules so that the players aren't in conflict, but the characters are. The players can all drive each other and don't have a conflict of interest at any point. And when you do that, if it's all working out well, if the social interaction is properly engineered, then what you wind up with is a potent piece of fiction that tells you, it tells you about your friends, and it's a very intimate experience in a way that few other avocations are. Okay.
So tell me then about your game.
My game is called Shock. Shock Social Science Fiction. It's based in the premise of exploring the kind of moral lines that you find in science fiction, particularly early science fiction, not so much pulps, but later things like Logan's Run or Planet of the Apes. Stuff like that.
I was going to ask you, give me some movies or some books.
Yeah. Blade Runner. Blade Runner is my favorite example. Because Blade Runner is not about flying cars and Los Angeles in 2013. Blade Runner is about slavery. Blade Runner is about what it takes to be a human, what it takes to make somebody not a human in your eyes. So the game gives you the tools to explore that kind of thing. Explore, for instance, in that case, what does it mean to Roy to know that he's going to die? What does it mean to Deckard to know that he has to kill somebody? And how do they convince him to do it? How do we convince each other to do horrible things to each other?
I don't know. Guess I should play a game and find out. So how did you get into publishing your own game?
Well, in 2004, I think, Ben Lehman, who's a game designer, showed up at my door, and I was working on this game called Under the Bed.
He used to live in Boston, but doesn't anymore.
Yes, he used to live in Boston. Now he's in Seattle. Before that, he was on my couch in Shanghai and lots of places. He showed up, and I was working on this game called Under the Bed, which is a game about little children and the toys that they need to get them through the challenges of childhood. And the idea was to look at it sort of unflinchingly and to say that if you assume that the things that children are afraid of are real things and worth being afraid of, then their toys have to deal with real things. And what happens in the game is that you tend to blurt out something that you're afraid of, either as a child or you're afraid of for your children. And so I was working on this, and Ben said, well, you should publish it. I said, why would I publish it? There's no money in publishing games. I'm going to sign all the rights away to this, and I'm going to get 1% off the 12 copies that get sold. It's not worth it. He said, it's really satisfying, and you can actually do it and make money at it. And so I did. I thought it sounded like fun. I'm a graphic designer, so I did, and I took it to Gen Con in 2005. 2005.
What's Gen Con?
Gen Con is an enormous convention.
Okay.
Tens of thousands of nerds show up from all over the world, and
attendees show up from all over the world. Right?
Yes,
Okay.
attendees, and some of those attendees are independent publishers and make all sorts of really fascinating stuff.
Okay.
And they all get together at a booth sponsored by The Forge and sell their stuff and meet each other and make great friends and play games.
Okay, and The Forge is what?
The Forge is a site, an online forum for people who are figuring out how to design and publish their own games.
Okay, so then tell me about publishing. So somebody has this idea. They've written out these rules and they have a game here that they want to. How do they go about publishing it?
Well, they start off making sure that what they've got is a sound idea, and they design the living crap out of it, and go around and play with all their friends, and then give it to some people who aren't their friends, and then they play it and they listen very carefully to the things that to the feedback that they get, and then they start the publishing process, which used to be complicated and expensive, and at this point you can go to lulu.com and
what's that?
It's a website. You send them a PDF of your game file, and you send them $5, and they send you a copy. And you send everybody a link to the page where they print it out, and they print them out one at a time, and they send them to people, and you get to set your price however you want.
Oh.
And ideally, somewhere in that process, you've had an editor doing editing for you and a graphic designer doing book layout and all of that stuff. And you do it up to a certain point, and you have an ashcan, which is something that is a low production value version of the game that has all of the parts that you think will work and has been tested, and you have a 75% confidence in the game, and you publish it as inexpensively as you can, and you get it into, just so you can get it into as many hands of people as you can, and they turn around and send you back your feedback, and you put it together, and you put the cover that you really wanted on it, and edit out that paragraph that doesn't make any sense, and rewrite the rest of it, and bit by bit you meet people along the way who can help you get it out into the world.
So you can really do this yourself?
You can do it yourself, except that the key with the communications medium is that you really need somebody at the other end. So one of the glories of the 21st century is the internet and fora where people are interested in this kind of thing.